Hello and welcome to Daily Records. I'm Tommy Burton and I am going to talk today about one of my very favorite recordings by the great Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, from Elvis in Memphis. This album was released on June 17th, 1969. It was recorded at the American Sound Studio in Memphis, Tennessee, under the production of Chips Moman. Now, don't let the cover fool you, because this cover, some of you may recognize, is from the iconic 1968 Elvis Comeback Special. But that is not what this recording is. This is some recordings he made after that, and he recorded it in Memphis, hence the title, From Elvis in Memphis. Now, this album was a big deal for Elvis on several levels, because this was his first major album release after taking a break from the movie career that had sort of sidelined Elvis for most of the 60s. Now, a little bit of historical perspective. Elvis got his start in Memphis. He recorded at Sun Studios, recorded some of the most legendary music ever to be released. He later signed to RCA Records. He was drafted, went into the Army, spent a couple of years in the Army, came back from the Army, and basically spent most of the 60s making movies. He made over 25 motion pictures, and a lot of them were sort of formulaic films. But by the end of the 60s, Elvis had sort of become passé. He had gone from being this sort of iconic musical figure, influential, to sort of being this kind of forgotten about guy. He wasn't making music that was very relevant. And so, to put a little historical perspective, he had spent the summer of '68 working on the television special that was later to become known as the '68 Comeback Special. And that was a major statement for him, because it was bringing Elvis back in front of a live audience. '69 saw him return to the stage in Las Vegas. And this is prior to Elvis sort of gaining some weight and sort of the 70s Elvis that we kind of associate with Elvis. This was Elvis. He really was hungry to do good work and do important work. And so with the '68 Comeback Special, he had sort of broken away a little bit from the Colonel's influence. And it was sort of suggested by one of his guys that he record in Memphis. And so it was brought up that the American Studio there in Memphis was a good place to go. And so it brought him away from the RCA studios in Nashville that he had been recording at. This was pretty much a new studio, but it was kind of known for producing a lot of hits around this time. But one of the reasons that Elvis wanted to go there was because the house band had a lot of soul. They were called the Memphis Boys. And they were a little bit skeptical when Elvis came in, because they just kind of knew Elvis as sort of the movie guy at that point, and they really weren't sure what he was going to do there. And so he went into the studio, and they're kind of giving him, I've read stories where some of the musicians, Wayne Jackson from the Memphis Horns, was kind of giving him a side eye, and like, we could be working with Neil Diamond right now, but what's this guy about? But he came in, he had a little bit of a cold. I think a lot of people got the vibe, well, he's a prima donna, it's Elvis, this is not going to go well. But he really went into the session full on. And the first track, and you can kind of hear a little bit of the cold on there, Wearing That Love Don't Look. And he just goes for it. He goes for the gusto. And it's just a really soulful, fun album. Also featured on this album from Elvis in Memphis, Only the Strong Survive, Long Black Limousine. He does I'm Moving On, Power of My Love, which is just a blues rocker, just powerful. The Glenn Campbell, a lot of people know, Gentle on My Mind, Any Day Now. And of course the final track on this album is In the Ghetto, which was one of Elvis's biggest hits, and really one of Elvis's most socially sort of conscious songs that he ever recorded. Now, notably missing from this album, but released as a single from these sessions, was the fantastic, I may even say Elvis's greatest single, Suspicious Minds. So if you're a fan of Suspicious Minds and the sound of that record, this is an album that you're gonna absolutely love. People are sometimes shocked when they hear this. They look at the cover and they think Elvis, by the late 60s, early 70s, what did Elvis have to offer? But I play this album for him, and it's always met with a look of kind of shock and surprise because Elvis really was he really was desiring to really be relevant and to make an artistic statement. And Elvis did some really nice work in the late 60s and early 70s, and a lot of it gets overlooked by sort of the iconic imagery, but to get into some of that music is to really discover some gems. So today's album, Record of the Day from Elvis in Memphis from 1969. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's TommyBurton75. I usually show what I'm spinning. Also, check out my main channel, Tommy Burton's VC channel. But in the meantime, I'll see you guys tomorrow with another Daily Record.